Someone You Should Know, a program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Someone You Should Know. I'm really happy that you're here, especially today, because we're going to have some fun today, and you are going to learn some things about my guest that you're going to be absolutely totally blown away with. We are brought to you today by our producer, and that is Christine Dean, who is the DFW networking diva. You know, a lot of times people will say to me, "Hey, how did you put together such a great show?" Hey, right there, Christine Dean is the reason. She's the producer of this show, and she knows everything there is to know about marketing, not only your website, but your business and your business experience. Reach out to her. It's a no-cost consultation, and she'll tell you all about how she can make your business even better than you thought it was. And she's a good kid too. I love her to death. Well, my guest today has been in the music business basically her whole life. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that because I want to introduce you to Mary Dawson. Mary, welcome.
Hi.
Great to have you on the show. I am absolutely amazed at you and your career. When I first popped up your picture, and I was telling my wife I'm going to be interviewing this singer songwriter and music cataloger and blogger, and she thought, oh, okay, that she was probably going to see somebody like Crystal Gale. And
Nope.
yeah, she saw your picture and she says, wow, I would not picture, somebody like Mary as accomplishing all the things that you've accomplished. So you've managed to remain under the radar all these years.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, you come from a musical background. I think the old phrase is that the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. You come from a family of music, and that's kind of where the bug bit you. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And Stuart, thank you for having me today. It's just such a pleasure. I've been listening to some of your podcasts at the gym just to get acquainted with you. So I'm a fan already.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do come from a musical background. My father was a songwriter and a musician. And when other kids were out in the front yard throwing a ball around with their dad, I was in at the piano writing a song with my dad. He would make up the chord progressions on the bass part of the piano keyboard, and then I would just make up the melodies on top. And so we wrote a lot of wonderful songs that way. And he also played the organ and the accordion and several other instruments, the guitar. So, but he was never a professional. He just loved music. And you're right, the bug bit me long ago, and I never recovered. I'm an obsessive compulsive music person.
Yeah. Were you or your father formally trained in music?
No. My father played everything by ear, and so I pretty much do the same thing. I can write things down on paper, but that's not done very much anymore. And sometimes I can get a chord going while I'm writing a song. I'll have to call my friend who's a theory major to say, okay, this is what I have in the left hand, what I have right hand. What is that? So
Yeah.
part.
Well, I know writing music and writing songs and everything is an intricate process, and I've always been curious. Do you just tinker like on the piano and you come up with a melody, and that you hang on to that melody, waiting for the right words, or do you sit and like write poetry and lyrics and all, and then say, I think this is finished. It's good enough for a song. Now I'm going to put the music to it.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it occurs the melody first, and sometimes the words come first, and sometimes together. there's just no formula really for writing a song. But it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, which comes first. Well, basically my philosophy is you have to have a great idea, and a musical idea or a lyrical idea. I've heard somebody say that lyrics are thoughts in music, and the music part are emotions in music. So if you can get the thoughts and the emotions connected, because I really feel like songwriting is a communication process. So if you can get it to where the listener gets it, then you got a song.
We've heard about he was working with the guitar, come up with a riff.
Uh-huh.
And then once they get that riff, that's when they decide they're going to put it to music and then add the lyrics.
And that can happen. I am not a singer, by the way. I only write them. I never, qualified for the choir or anything like that. Thank you very much for trying out. See you around. But I love music. I work with a lot of wonderful, accomplished artists, and that's been exciting. And that's just another step in the process. I wish I had been blessed. Like Jimmy Webb, my friend Jimmy Webb, the songwriter, he says, I'm praying that God would make me a songwriter. I just forgot to include singer.
Nothing like track in. Jimmy Webb, excuse.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say that you don't sing. I mean, when you are putting words to music and all, even though you may not have a polished voice, do you sit there and sing the words to see if it flows? Is that
Oh yeah.
part of the process?
Yeah. I tell my students that, I have no PhD in music theory or in poetry or anything like that, but I have a PhD in listening. And I listen to everything. And if I'm in the process of writing a song, I will put it on some kind of rough format, an MP3 or something, and then listen as if I were listening to that song for the first time. And if I don't get it from the very beginning, then I know I got to go back and rewrite, because, great songs aren't written, they're rewritten. So you have to keep working at it.
Yeah, it's an artist that paints. Sometimes they just keep looking at that painting and then adding another stroke,
Right.
adding another stroke, and to them, it's like a work in progress that's never finished.
Yeah, and sometimes like they say great songs are never finished, they just escape. Somewhere along the line, you have to say, okay, this is it.
For somebody who listens to it, hears it, and says, "Hey, I'd like to record that."
Right, exactly.
Now it's off the table and it's into the recording studio.
Right.
You mentioned about not having a good voice. It reminds me of you, and you probably know this singer-songwriter, Paul Williams.
Oh, I've written with him.
Have you really? Paul Williams has one of the most annoying voices when he sings his lyrics, but he writes the tunes. He does record some of them. He's recorded a couple of albums, but there are other people that record his stuff, and when you say, "Oh, that was written by Paul Williams," they say, "It was."
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, he wrote some songs that the Carpenters did.
Absolutely.
Three Dog Night. Just
Yeah.
an old-fashioned love song by Three Dog Night was written by Paul Williams. And
I got to tell you a story about that.
okay,
He told me this. He said when he first started working for A&M Records, and he really had no musical training, and so they put him in this writer's room and told him to come up with a song, and so he had to number the keys on the keyboard to tell one from the other, because he didn't know which end was which, and that's how he wrote just an old-fashioned love song. And he took it to the music composer, and with his kind of rough ideas of the chords and stuff, and they said, "You can't do those chords." And he said, "Well, I don't even know what a chord is." But they managed to make it work, and became a huge hit. So,
so that is that's going to to a singer songwriter that's out there that wants to get into the music is you don't have to be formally trained if you
No,
have the desire to do it. Go for it.
absolutely.
And you have actually taken that a step further because uh, you had a website at least for a while. Well, you could still go in and check it out. It's called Tweakatune,
Hmm.
and what you do is you listen to music and lyrics by other singer songwriters, and then you criticize it or you pan it, and you're you don't pull any punches. I know you are extremely honest and straightforward about whether it's was well formed, or it needs this or that. And did you say that you're not doing it now, but thinking of restarting that?
Yes, I'm thinking. Well, actually, now I have a nonprofit group called Songsmith, which we kind of do the same thing. We have chapters that meet in Texas mostly, but we have people from other parts now that Zoom is in vogue. So, but we listen to each other's songs and then we give feedback on those. And it came about through my old career. There were some situations where I got to bring some of my early songs to a critique session. And some of those critiquers were so obnoxious and, very mean. And they would critique you in front of the whole group. And I thought, you don't have to be mean, but it's very nice to get some honest perspective. How does this come through to someone that hasn't heard this song before? Do they get it or do they don't? And so we do that in our Songsmith chapters too. But Tweakatune was, something I've done for years and years and years. People would contact me and ask me to review their songs, and that's what I did. So we finally put it up on YouTube for a while.
And, it is marydawson.com, and click around the different buttons because there's a button for her music, there's a button for Tweakatune, there's a button for Songsmith, and there's a lot to absorb on your website. And it it just it amazes me what you have been able to accomplish over the years with your music. And as you say, you don't record your music, but there are other people that you have written for, and it's not in one genre or another because you have written jazz, you have written inspirational music, you have written some country and western type tunes. Is there a certain do you just wake up in the morning and say, I got a thought for an inspirational tune today? Or I think there's a phrase that I got that sounds like it should be recorded by a country western artist. What is the process? What goes on in the head of Mary Dawson?
Well, people have been wondering that for a long time, but I'll tell you what I can tell you. But I think anything that gives you an idea. Speaking of country and western, I used to make the drive back and forth from Dallas to Nashville frequently, and it's a long, long way. And so, yeah, it's a long way. And I started getting, road kind of hypnotism. And I think I got to write a song or do something, keep my brain awake. And so I thought, what can I write a song about? And I saw all these exit now signs on the side of the road, and exit now for gas and exit now for food. And I thought, that could be a relationship issue. I'm going to exit now before you hurt me again. So before I got to Nashville, I had written the song Exit Now. So you billboards, T-shirts. I saw a T-shirt once that said "Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly." I think that was G.K. Chesterton's quote, and that turned into a jazz piece. It just evolved. So I think that something can catch your mind, or you get inspired by somebody else, that is doing a similar chord progression or rhythm or something. And it's not like you're copying it, but you just feel that kind of music for a while and start to write in that kind of genre.
In your interaction with with other singer-songwriters, do you find that sometimes that's the same process that they go through also, and that their mind is always picking up words or phrases or things that they then turn into their music?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's got to start somewhere. And sometimes it comes from your life experiences. Um, I had an opportunity to speak to the SMU 50th anniversary of their music and arts education program. And, I realized that some of the songs that I had written kind of corresponded with difficult times that I had gone through or happy times that I had gone through. I didn't even realize at the time that I was writing out of my life. But when I looked back on it, I could see, oh, yeah, that's when this was happening. And so, I think you get inspired in different ways. And it's also good therapy. It's just like journaling or something. You can take out your emotions by writing them into music. And then music takes its own course. And, I've had psychiatrists tell me that music doesn't have to pass through your mental filters. It just goes straight to the heart. And that's what we're trying to do is go straight to the heart. And today, you know, the problems of the past of having to go through a music industry with producers and publicists and publishers and the big offices and all of that is all gone. I mean, anybody just like us, we can get online now, and if we attract certain groups of people, we'll know that we have a fan base. And so I have some really talented writers. They're older. One of them in particular is brilliant, but he's older. And I said, you need to get on YouTube. What are you going to do with all these great songs you're writing? And he goes, well, what am I going to call it? Grandpa's next song? I said, perfect. That would be a great title for it. Yeah. You would be surprised at who follows you.
Well, in addition to writing and hooking up with singer-songwriters, and all, you've written a book about the business, and I think the name of the book is absolutely it just grabs at your heartstrings. It's called How to Get Somewhere in the Music Business from Nowhere with Nothing. And I can see that there's probably most singer-songwriters remember the day where they just sat on the corner and opened up the guitar case and
Yeah.
started playing a few tunes and waited for people to drop some coins in their case.
Right.
And that's where an awful lot of them started and built their careers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just never know where it's going to lead you, and you meet people that influence you and that give you ideas. And then you think, okay, well, let's try that. And so like when I first started writing, I had no idea that I would ever collaborate with anybody who wrote like choral music or theater music. But the more I got into it and the more people I collaborate with, it's just another step in the journey. And I thought, oh man, I've never done this before, but you learn as you go. So you just can't be afraid to step off the ladder, and just keep moving. And don't worry about the music business anymore. Because really, that was kind of the 90s. It still has this mystique that you have to be in the right place at the right time with the right people. And, but that's really not true. You can get where you need to go from where you are. So every place is a music city now.
So, the awkward is all of a sudden, we had American Idol,
Yeah.
and then The Voice, and all kinds of sing-off type shows and all, where young people from all over, young and older people from all over the country would get prodded into, hey, you should try out for these
Mhm.
shows. And it was a way for them to showcase themselves and their talent. What's your opinion of those shows? Are they well done? Are they promising and positive for these young singer songwriters and all, or is it just the reality experience?
Yeah, I am an American Idol fan. I got hooked early on, and I love to hear the critiques and the comments and stuff like that. But you know, what I encourage people to do is go back and look at how many of those Idol winners really succeeded in the music business. Some of them you can't remember even anymore. Some of them, like Jennifer Hudson, actually, she became a famous star without American Idol. She was kind of booted off the island, and she ended up training herself and getting back into music from her own perspective. So I think, there's some value in it, but read the fine print because you have to sign a contract with those guys. And if you don't realize what you're signing, I've had several American Idol contestants that made it to Hollywood, but not any further. They're locked into a contract for like 7 years. So they can't even accept another offer because they're locked into this American Idol contract, which is not going anywhere, of course, because they were rejected. So, you got to be very, very careful to read the fine print and not get blown away by the mystique of it. I just had a consultation last week with a really gifted songwriter who got a kind of a promo nod from a publisher in Nashville. But when I looked up the publisher, he said, "Oh man, this is going to be so exciting!" I looked up the whole uh, company, and there was hardly anything about it anywhere online. And so, just the fact that they live in Nashville doesn't make them, the golden ticket to success. So they like to create that mystique again. So make you think that they're what they've been looking for, but it doesn't always work that way.
What you're saying, the current movie that's out in the theaters now is the story of Elvis, and not
Yes.
so much the story of Elvis, but the story of Colonel Parker, and very well played by Tom Hanks, by the way.
Yeah.
But it shows how Elvis was a talent within himself, but he was manipulated
Mhm.
uh, throughout his entire career
Yeah.
that the public really didn't know about, but it was unfortunate. Obviously, people should copy down your email address, and if they got questions about where to go and how to get there and all, email Mary Dawson and say, "I'd like to talk to you about this,"
I
because
love to talk to songwriters. I do. One of the things that Elvis movie did not cover was the fact that many of his hit songs were written by a gentleman named Otis Blackwell, who was a black songwriter from the Brill Building in New York. And in those days, when there was so much segregation and all of that going on, he realized that he would never make it himself. So he sold his songs to Elvis, and Elvis got all the credit. And I noticed in that movie, they didn't mention Otis Blackwell anytime. So I'm thinking about doing a documentary on that, just the part under the story that you didn't hear.
it's sometimes the backstory of things as interesting or more interesting even than the front story
Absolutely.
that we're all familiar with. And
Mhm.
I think that's what you bring out in a songsmith, and also in that tweak a tune a little bit is to really get into the nitty gritty, because some of the songs that you pan and you talk about, they, as you said earlier, they're written from the heart. And so you can't tell somebody who has the feeling in their heart and puts it into words and music, uh, well, that's a good song and a good tune and all, but you got to change all the words, because that's what the song is all about. Uh, and do you find that, again, you're telling people, if you believe in what you're doing, then work with it, move it forward. And
Keep
it
it
doesn't
moving.
mean that you have to be signing this multi album record
Right.
deal. There's some great, I know that there's lots of very successful and wealthy singer songwriters and everything that have just been writing for other people. And
Right.
when you assume that the singer was the one that wrote the song, and then
Exactly.
music, and it says written by somebody you never heard of.
Heard of. Exactly. I know. When you hear The Rose, with everybody thinks that's Bette Midler. No, it was Amanda McBroom.
Yeah.
Who is Amanda McBroom? Well, and one of the things I love to do is find out who actually wrote the song and see what their bio is. It's very fascinating and very inspirational. So,
I mean, one of the most famous is Carole King.
oh, my favorite.
She wrote, rock songs. She wrote rhythm blues songs. She wrote a variety of things that you would hear the song and they'd say Carole King wrote that. Huh? Carole King wrote that?
Oh yeah, yeah. She just got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the other night. So that was
And what took so long?
yeah. Well, it took so long. Is right. She's a genius. And one of the things I noticed, Stuart, I'd like to just encourage songwriters, and you were talking about it earlier. You don't have to be a, music theory genius to write a song. In fact, most of the great songwriters I know, some of them don't even read music at all, and they just play well. But, if you keep it simple, don't try to get ahead of your skis, because some of the greatest songs ever written are the most simple in terms of construction. And so one of the things I try to do is that, there's certain kind of below the radar signals that a listener is listening for. If you don't, like they say, if you don't get quickly to the chorus, chances are the song will bore us. You have to get to a hook that people go, oh yeah, this is the title. If I'm going to call in or if I'm going to look for it on YouTube, what's the title of the song? If the title is, somewhere near the end of the second verse, nobody's going to know the title. So keep it simple. Just listen to great songs. And most of them are very, very simple and repetitious. That's what teaches the song to the listener in a period of 3 minutes.
So should the song come first or should the song come first?
Well, the song title needs to be recognizable. And a lot of times people make that mistake. They give it a title that isn't even in the song. And then even if somebody likes it, they can't find it. So a good hook is like a hook, an implement in your garden shed. You've got to catch somebody, you've got to hold them, you got to pull them along to the end. And so that hook is what does that in the song.
It's really hard. I'd like it before the chorus is repeated, and so you grab it, and then that when it comes around again, now you've planted the seed as to remembering that song because of that title.
Right, and that's what you want to do. I write songs for my own inspiration. Just sit down at the end of the day and just kind of unload. But that's not going to be a great song if it doesn't connect. If it doesn't connect with anybody else, chances are you're probably not going to be writing a hit. Because the ones that stand out in your mind and in other people's minds are those that really, oh man, yeah, I know what he's talking about. That's how I feel, So that's what you want to aim for. And there are certain subliminal clues that the listener expects to hear the hook repeated. And if they don't even know that they're looking for it, but their brain has been conditioned by years and years of listening to songs to want to hear what this song is all about. And so, yeah, there's just these little tweaks that you can do to a song. If they get too wordy or too long, or, it doesn't mean the song is not good. It just needs to have some of those little identity figures put into the song so people can get it when they hear it.
Other than Rob on there, and all you have other family members that are in the music business, any of your kids?
No, none of my kids, but now I have 9 grandkids. And I'm proud to say that I just spent a week with my eldest son in Maryland, and his 2 boys are very prolific songwriters and musicians. And the 16-year-old just came back from 5 weeks at Berklee College of Music in Boston, where he did an intern program this summer. So he's learning production and all of that. And then my littlest granddaughter, she is a keyboard player, and her mother asked her, what would you like? Would be your favorite thing in the world to do? And she said, I want a piano lesson by Paul McCartney. I
Better hurry up.
she said, wait a minute, that's better than Disney World? She's better than Disney World.
Well, just like you said, you would rather be sitting at a piano than out in the yard throwing a baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
that was yeah, and I mean we have a little in common because I started listening and following and playing music as a young kid because my dad was a band leader
Oh,
back in the 40s. He used to entertain the troops that were coming back and forth from the European theater during World War II. And,
wow.
uh, he had a dance band in high school, and when the war hit, the entire orchestra from his high school, they all went and they enlisted at the same time because they said, "Listen, we'd like to enlist, but we'd like to stay together as a musical unit." And they were lucky enough to get into the special services and do that. And so my sister and I both kind of followed music. And to this day, I don't play music as much, but there is absolutely, well, maybe hip hop and rap. I don't really get that much into, but I'll embrace almost any form of music.
Yeah.
And having said that, do you have, any favorite form of music that you write for? Because you do write ballads and you do write jazz and you do write, inspirational and country music. Is there a favorite that you have, or it's just whatever the inspiration kicks?
I have to say I love it all. I guess if I had to pick one, I say I just love gospel R&B. It's so infectious. And I saw a video earlier this year that there was a whole Woodstock, only the black version, occurring at the same time as Woodstock that nobody ever documented until recently. And boy, to see Stevie Wonder at 20 playing the drums and, that infectious gospel-y pop. In fact, I think some of the gospel songs, went straight to the top of the hit parade because everybody loves them. They're very infectious. So I think that's one of my favorites anyway, but I love it all.
Yeah, check that out. I remember that also. And some of the groups, Sly and the Family Stone,
Yeah.
were just unbelievable in that performance mode. And I mean, we all, no matter what background you came from, Aretha Franklin hit every chord because she could sing a gospel
Yep.
tune and then she could turn around and do a pop tune. But you didn't watch her sing a song. You felt her in your soul, listening to it and just absorbing it. You became a sponge
Yeah.
listening to her.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. There's another great movie out right now on the life of Mahalia Jackson. It's called Remember Me. And she was another one she came of age during the height of segregation and prejudice. Uh, there's one scene where her name was on the bill in a theater and she had to enter through the colored door. They couldn't go through the front door. But her voice and her songs captured the nations. She was world famous everywhere she went. Everybody knew her and loved her songs, whether they liked gospel music or not. They did after they heard her sing.
you mentioned that your programs are mostly local in the state of Texas, but you have a kind of an outreach. If people around the country that are watching and listening to this show say, I think I'd like to start something like Toonsmith or something in my neck of the woods, can they reach out to you to get information about how to
Absolutely.
do it?
Yes. And my email is real simple. It's just mary@marydawson.com.
And I think it's a great opportunity for local singer songwriters and all. I know that you and I have some mutual friends here in the area. I have been following Ryan Michael Galloway
Oh, yes.
for ever since we moved to Texas, and also Julie Bonk. Uh,
Oh, she's one of my dearest friends.
she is she's one of those people that when you listen to her, she's just angelic in the way
Mhm.
she sings and presents herself, and I'm very glad that she is on the road to recovery now too, because she is was sick for a while and she's doing very, very well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. She's a dear. I love her. And she's so talented.
yeah.
Yeah. So talented.
But so your book, did the inspiration for writing the book, How to Get Somewhere in Music, from nowhere with nothing, was that something that you always wanted to write, or you knew that you were going to someday write it? Because writing a book and writing music are kind of, the thought process might be there, but it's a completely different set
Different.
of rules.
Yeah, well, the book came about because like I said, I got contacted by so many songwriters that asked me the same questions over and over again. And I thought, okay, I don't even think I had an outline for that book. It was just my life experience of people that had asked these questions. And I thought, okay, this is where everybody starts. And not everybody can move to Hollywood or Nashville. So what do you do? And so I wanted to give them some practical tips on how to present themselves and where to take the next step, because some people get such contaminated ideas of what it takes. I had one friend who was a songwriter for, I think, from Illinois, and she just did coffee shops and everything like that, every weekend. And she finally hired this marketing team to follow where she was getting the most hits. She had a YouTube channel, and they found out that her most hits were from Indonesia, and so they flew her to Indonesia, and 5,000 people were waiting for her in this baby. So, but what she did, which was really cool, is that when she was writing a song on YouTube, she would talk to her audience and she'd say, "Hey, I got this idea for a song. What do you think about this?" And she would interact with her listeners. And so by the time she finished the song, she already had a fan base. So there's just so many ways that you can, go in there and capture a listener. And when we get together as songwriters and share what we've found successful, then we can all benefit from it. So in Songsmith, we say, we share our songs. We don't try to, rip each other off in terms of copyright percentages or anything like that. We figure a win for one of us is a win for all of us. So if we contribute in any way to help somebody else, then that's, a win. So I would love for anybody who is listening to check it out, because we have a great time and we're expanding all the time, especially since Zoom. Or now we can Zoom in from anywhere we are. We do still have some in-person meetings, but most of them are on Zoom now.
Interactive, that a lot of them are open to sharing information with each other and also sharing their music, because somebody may be prolific in one form of writing music, but they hear somebody else's tune and they say, I would really like to, either record your tune or at least add it to my playlist, because I'm 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 taken by it. And I mean, that's
Absolutely.
a form of flattery to a singer-songwriter.
It truly is. It really is. If somebody likes your song, I heard Elton John say, they asked him one time, what if somebody records one of your songs and it isn't that good? The cover isn't that good. He said, listen, anytime anybody wants to cover one of your songs, it is an honor to the songwriter. And I think that's exactly the way everybody feels. And sometimes it's a surprise to see who records them and how they interpret it. They may just add their own little, artistic taste to it. And it makes it great.
Yeah. That and to make a song popular, sometimes it is rewritten. Very often, a singer-songwriter does it just with piano or guitar, and
Right.
somebody else comes along and puts a full chorus and a full orchestra behind it to record it.
You're
Uh,
right. Exactly. And you think about, the greatest song of the 20th century was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And you think of how many versions you've heard of that song. You've heard the Judy Garland version, then you got the Ray Charles version, and then you got the Israel Kawana Koma or whatever his name was, in the usually, yeah, but you still know it's somewhere over the rainbow because the melody and the lyrics are the same. So that's why I say the two non-negotiables of a copyright are the lyrics and the music. The arrangement and the rhythm, that's negotiable. They can be arranged in any number of ways. So, and it's surprising to hear how it sounds in various genres.
You weren't you just recently nominated for a Grammy?
Well, I was on a Grammy nominated recording. It wasn't me myself, but that was a surprise because the song that was nominated, I'd written 25 years ago. And I was thinking, how did this artist find it? And so I tried to call the publisher. I couldn't get any kind of response. And so this was really weird. I was visiting my son and I was getting ready to plug my phone in for the night. And I saw I missed a call. And I thought it's probably just spam, but I'll try to return the call. And so I did. And this lady answers the phone. She goes, "Hey, this is Tiffany." And I'm going, "Tiffany? Who do I know named Tiffany?"
Yeah.
And finally started asking her, I said, "Tiffany, and what's your last name?" She said, "Coburn." I said, "I think you recorded one of my songs." She was trying to call her manager and she got me by mistake. So how that happened, I have no idea. So I said, "Can I ask you a question? I've just been fascinated to find out that you recorded my song from 25 years ago." I said, "How did you find it?" She said, "I heard it 25 years ago and I've wanted to record it ever since." So that was quite a surprise, and a really mysterious connection on that one. Because she said, I was trying to call my manager, or I thought my manager was calling me."
So it's just if you've got something that I wrote 25 years ago and you put them in a drawer, don't get rid of them.
Exactly.
You never know when they're going to resurface, and somebody's going to come along and like that young girl, all she wants to do is play piano like Paul McCartney. And you never can tell when all of a sudden there's going to be a knock on the door and Paul says, "Yes, I'm here to play piano with you."
Yes, absolutely. Well, actually, he's even got some piano lessons on YouTube. Paul McCartney does for beginner songwriters. So
Yeah.
a lot of these guys want to give back to the next generation. And there's nobody better than Paul McCartney, in my opinion. And he's not a trained musician either, but he was someone who listened to all kinds of music. And so, if you read his stories behind the songs, you'll find out that he was listening to like 6 hours of classical music before he wrote Eleanor Rigby or something like that. So, all of that stuff goes in and gets recycled in your brain and comes out in a song.
And that's what don't limit your listening to one genre
No.
of music, because the more you expand your repertoire of music that you listen to and enjoy, the more it may influence your talent.
Absolutely. I couldn't say that better myself, and I'm glad you said it. And just don't have every button on your radio or whatever set to a different channel. Just don't let yourself get stuck, because pretty soon if you get stuck in one genre, everything's going to start sounding the same.
So have it there, folks. MaryDawson.com and email Mary@MaryDawson.com. Really, it's very, very simple. And believe me, if you go into that website, you'll sit there just wanting to spend hours looking, and not only looking but listening too, because there's a lot to listen to and see what Mary has done. I applaud you for a tremendous career that you've had, Mary. Um, you know, growing up as a girl in Roscoe, Illinois, and I actually know where Roscoe, Illinois is.
One of the few.
You've come a long way, and what you have done for the music industry and for singer songwriters and artists and everything is incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And I hope to see your name in the Music Hall of Fame.
Well, it is all fun. And if you're not having fun, stop. Don't don't keep doing something that you don't enjoy. And that's why I love doing it. Whatever I can, I just love to be involved in music. And usually before I go to bed at night, I just scroll through YouTube and look at music stuff. So if there's no better place to get than to get on YouTube today if you're a songwriter.
Yep. Well, Mary Dawson, thank you very much
Thank you.
for spending the time with me. I always end my show with a quote, and it is, "Be yourself because everyone else is already taken."
I love it.
And, so thank you again. That'll do it for another edition of Someone You Should Know. Our very, very biggest thanks to Mary Dawson, singer, songwriter, and lovely, lovely lady. You take care and be well. We'll see you again next week, folks.
Okay. Thanks, Stuart. Blessings.
Someone You Should Know.